breeds contempt or jealousy, things like that. So it's a natural kind of thing that happens in politics. I think it's even more competitive when it does come down to funding. If someone's sharing funding in some way, it's going to get competitive. If someone's job might be on the line. So that does cause that problem.
Right.
As far as like issues and which issues people are working on, I think that it's very easy for groups to sometimes expand in a direction that maybe they don't normally work in just because they got the funding to do it. Like for example, like mission creep kind of thing. Is that they'll talk to some funder somewhere, and the funder will say, you know, it'd be great if you did, set up more phone banks or something, or more organizing in Orlando. And then they're like, okay, well, we've never done that, but this person wants to give us money to do it, so we can learn how to do it real quick, and now we'll do that.
Right.
But meanwhile, there's an organization that just does phone banking in the Orlando area, or whatever it may be. And that person now doesn't have that funding, and now there's 2 or 3 or 4 groups doing the same essential task in the same area.
Right.
So sometimes it's a problem with funders. I mean, it's very hard for any nonprofit for someone to say no to funding.
Oh, of course. Right.
They just can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, no is not in any, fundraiser or executive directors, in their dictionary. It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
And I'm not an executive director, but I do understand that. You have to make payroll. You have to make sure that your organization is growing and you're doing the work that you think is important. But at the same time, that's another area where I found over my years is that where groups do get competitive is when someone does the mission creep. When someone's if you're an organizer and all of a sudden the firm that used to do just communications is now also doing organizing, that could breed a little contempt there.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking, that's just these giant funding problems that are...
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And then if you talk to the funders, which maybe you are doing, it's like, I'm sure they're competing about it too, is that funders want to be in the hot area. Funders want to be doing... we funded, 10,000 knocks on doors in Miami. They want to be able to say things like that, just like we want to be able to say we did it.
Right.
So it's the same problem there. I mean, it's this competitive kind of thing. And I mean, and it's great, I think, in a lot of ways that there's energy and money and people want to do these good things, but more coordination would probably be good.
Right. No, totally. Okay, that makes sense, because I've just been thinking about these things and it's hard for me to know, Anyway, it's hard for me to know what's going on.
That's probably pretty good. That's a good way to think about it.
Where did you work before this, or what kind of work?
I worked for the National Audubon Society.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So I did they're just the C3, right? So they just do just charity work, education stuff. I was in the communications department and fundraising there for 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then so ahead of, so in election season now, does League of Conservation Voters, do you all hire canvassers, or do you round up volunteers, or is that not your role?
So we are, we're the Florida Conservation Voters, which is an affiliate of the League of Conservation Voters.
Right.
We have our own separate board, our own bank accounts, everything's different. We're just I'd say really good friends with them in DC.
Okay, sorry to pause. So are you a separate legal entity, or you're a chapter?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good.
We are. We have our own separate EIN number, separate board, separate bank accounts, separate everything.
Okay.
We're just, I would say, an affiliate, so we're just good friends. That's the way to describe it, is that we're buddies with them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I know you don't work for Sierra Club, but I've been trying to figure out their chapters, it seems like, are actually the same legal entity as their national group.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from what I understand, and again, I don't work for Sierra, but from what I understand is that they call them groups, first of all. If you call them chapters, they get very upset. So if you talk to them, call them groups,
Okay.
And they are, I believe, they are not separate, C3 organizations. They are just essentially little groups of Sierra Club people. And not all of them have actual paid employees with them. Some of them do have paid employees, but not all of them do.
Right, I noticed that as well, and I couldn't...
Yeah.
It's very hard I need to just call them, but I am having trouble figuring out... One of the other problems I'm having is figuring out who has paid staff and who doesn't. Okay.
So they do have paid staff in a couple areas around the state. Some of those Sierra Club groups are really informal. mean, it's like, 15 people meeting for cookies on like a random Monday night, and, so it's like pretty informal. Some of them have like a great membership, and they have people who turn out, and they do presentations in big theaters, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it varies, but depending on the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but it
Wait,
doesn't...
so I want to finish your question.
Oh, okay, yeah, no,
If
go
we
ahead.
hire organizers or anything like that. So we do hire organizers. Right now, all of our organizers are hired on the C3 side, I believe. We're not doing any C4 organizing, but it's not out of our toolbox, and should we are fundraising right now, I should say, to do canvassing operations closer to the election.
Okay.
And that would be C4, like action fund stuff, and I'm very excited about that opportunity. We don't have all that money available just yet, but once we do, I imagine we would have some kind of field or canvassing operation set up. I just don't know where or when or how yet, of course. But yes, so it is something that we are hoping to do, and as we grow, because we are fairly new. We only were founded in 2015.
Right, I saw that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So as we grow, and I don't intend on leaving this organization anytime soon. It's my goal here long term to have a permanent long term canvassing presence in the state of Florida, especially in some of our really important crowded areas, like say Miami or Tampa Bay area, where there's a bunch of candidates.
Okay, no, that makes total sense to me. And then again, this is like a giant question that like could be someone's dissertation, but why aren't there more there's so many environmental organizations on the ground in Florida, but it doesn't seem like many of them have built out political programs.
Right.
Are there main structural reasons or not even structural, but like what are the reasons for that?
That's a really good question. And obviously, I can't give you like the full answer on that because I just don't know it. But from my perspective, in Florida, so for many years in Florida, for decades, our legislature and governors, they did a decent job protecting our environment. They put a lot of money into it. Our laws were pretty good, like our water quality laws, our wildlife laws. They were all pretty darn good. And the lobbying presence in Tallahassee of the traditional conservation orgs, like let's just say Audubon or Florida Wildlife Federation or Thousand Friends of Florida, Nature Conservancy, these guys, I mean, they had access. They could come to the Capitol and walk into the governor's office and talk to the governor or talk to the DEP secretary, and they could get things done. And this is not in the ancient past. I mean, this is back just during Charlie Crist or before that and Jeb Bush. And so for years, I would say that hardcore environmental organizing wasn't entirely needed as, say, maybe it was in some of the northeastern states that were experiencing, like, industrial pollution, things like that. So we had it good here in Florida. And then, of course, when Governor Scott was elected, I mean, everything kind of changed. Like, literally the entire culture in Tallahassee as it relates to the environment, it changed 180 overnight. And then all of a sudden everyone realized, like, oh my gosh, like we're gonna have to change the way we think and we talk about the environment, because everything that we had is now gone. Our access to everything, our ability to affect change at the Capitol is all out the door. So now a lot of groups are thinking, oh my gosh, we should have some organizing troops on the ground, kind of thing, people who can knock on doors and get people organized and motivated. A lot of the groups, because they were so used to doing the things the way they did things, they were very hesitant to change, and maybe they haven't changed. Like, for example, the National Audubon Society, and don't quote me on the Audubon stuff,
that's fine. I won't, yeah.
The National Audubon Society, they have 45 chapters across the state of Florida.
Right.
Like 45 chapters with thousands and tens of thousands of members in the state of Florida.
Right.
I mean, they're like ready to go in a lot of ways.
That could be a powerhouse.
But they're not doing any of it. But they're doing zero. Zero of that.
Why? I mean, again, huge question, but is that just because it's like those people are just a little more apolitical by nature? Maybe they're retirees, or maybe they're just people who like to go hiking or whatever. I mean, is that the kind of...
I think that's part of it. I think part of them are usually older. We know that the average age of an Audubon member is like 78. I'm not joking. It's like 78 years old.
Okay.
Like that's the actual number. So it's an older crowd. Right. A lot of them are, I would say, either apolitical or don't see the value in organizing. In fact, they might have even really like Rick Scott, or they might have voted for Rick Scott, kind of thing. So they don't fully understand. A lot of them are, the retirees from out of state. So they come to